Randy again, and yeah, I'm wearing the same shirt as the last video. I'm recording a block of these while I work on the comics so I can have them all for a few days. I figure it's a great way to do a backlog, and it's not like I don't talk to myself while I work in comics anyway. So again, I apologize for not maintaining direct eye contact with you. Um, this one isn't a common question, actually. I don't think I've ever been asked it, but it's something I just kind of thought of because of some stuff recently, so I brought it up. And it's a video about a character that used to be common in SP called Jesus Mickey. Jesus Mickey first appeared in one of the earliest strips. It was actually the January 30th, 2002 strip called This Due in Remembrance of Me, Baby, which there's a story behind that title alone. But PG's in a bar lamenting about how there are no good men, blah, blah, blah. A guy shows up, looks just like Jesus. And Jason informs her that's Jesus Mickey. He basically dresses like Christ to get chicks. And Mickey showed up a couple times. He didn't show up a lot. He showed up when the Nails storyline. He was auditioning for Jesus, and he was very upset not to get the part. Lost it to T-Bob. He showed up at the very end of the very first Old Familiar Faces storyline week, basically cursing T-Bob for having got that part and swearing revenge. He showed up a couple times in 2004, once in the storyline where Brainman first learns that Davin is selling these panties that Choo Choo Bear's been stealing online. And you see he's out in the window glaring in at T-Bob. He's been stalking him, more or less. The last time Mickey was seen alive was December of 2005. It was when PG was put in the hospital. Cab put him in charge of the bar as an emergency measure. And after that, he was seen one other time. It was just his head in a jar on top of Davin and PG's fridge. And the insinuation being that Twitchy Huggy murdered him. Back when Twitchy Huggy kind of lost his mind. And so, I've said before, a lot of the characters have basis in reality. And Jesus Mickey is no different. He just didn't turn out the way he was supposed to have turned out in the comic. The original idea for Jesus Mickey was he was going to be a guy who hung out at the bar they all hung out at, and he didn't intentionally dress like Jesus. He was called Jesus Mickey because he always had long, dirty hair and a beard, and he was always spouting off, half-assed religion and his own brand of philosophy, which wasn't really sound. It was just there to make him sound deep and exciting to women. Specifically women who might have been a little too young to be around him. And he was actually based off of someone I knew, the ex-boyfriend of my first girlfriend in college, who was kind of similar. He was that guy you would see at Denny's at 2 or so in the morning with a lot of young girls who probably shouldn't have been there with him. 17 or so, and he was considerably older, and there was always kind of a weird awkwardness between him and I, because I was, when we first met, I was dating a woman that he had dated and kind of screwed things up with. And I just also have little respect for people who half-ass their viewpoints and basically make crap up. That's what I felt he was doing. But, and that was supposed to be who Mickey was going to be. He was this creepy guy who was just, he wasn't in the core group. He was just always kind of on the outside looking in. And he was there basically to offer his opinions every once in a while. And just be this loathsome creep that no one could tolerate. He's just really upsetting. But I decided to go for the quick, cheap joke. And I had this guy who instead had nails surgically planted in his wrist to get chicks. And that was for a mix of reasons. Also, partly I meant because the guy I'm talking about still has some friends that I'm friends with, and I don't want to cause problems for them. Dumb political crap, but also at the same time, I just didn't know if I would want to keep talking about this person. And worse yet, he was the kind of guy who, if you're talking about him, you're doing him a favor. I guess I'm doing him a favor right now. But I just didn't want to have this character in my comic that I had to look at, and worse yet, God forbid, what if he became popular and people liked him, and I mean, I wouldn't have kept using him, but still. And it's funny because of all the characters people ask about, like, how to come up with, no one ever asks about him. Well, they might ask what happened to him, and I explain, well, he's dead, and you've seen his head. But, people ask, what's the basis of Papito, what's the basis of Choo Bear and Twitchy Hog, all this stuff. But Mickey kind of gets forgotten. And it's a shame. And I do sometimes kind of regret not using him better. But things happen. And that's the thing about doing a comic. Very seldom does it stay, and I've talked to other cartoonists, they say the same thing, it doesn't usually stay the same thing you expected it to be. It will grow in the direction it wants to go. And in my comic's case, it didn't want Jesus Mickey. Yeah, again, it really did.